Hi everyone, and welcome to StudioJake. I, of course, am your host, Jacob Airy. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell because YouTube is doing this weird thing where they're curating your subscription feed, so you may not see me right away. So definitely ring that bell, that way you get notifications. Today, I've got a very special guest. She's not only a fellow author, she's also a friend of mine, C.S. Johnson, who just published Till Human Voices Wake Us, which is a fantastic fantasy novel. You need to pick it up. I just read it. My review of it is on my blog, so head over there as well. Christina, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks.
Now, today we have a very special post-Halloween episode. We're still talking about Halloween, even though it's past. Everyone's out in comas because of the candy and all that jazz. But one thing that keeps coming up, now I'm a former Sunday school teacher. I used to teach kids between the ages of 5 and 12, and I was also a youth pastor for a while. And so people would ask me all the time about scary movies that they can watch with their kids. And so Christina is a mother. She's got two kids, right?
Yep.
Okay, she's got 2 kids. So I'm coming at this from the perspective of I'm a former Sunday school teacher, and she's coming at it from the perspective as mom. So before we list off our movies, Christina, I want to get your take on this. What do you look for, like, because kids kind of like to be scared. They like to shiver. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on when choosing a potentially scary movie for your kids? What are your thoughts on finding one if you're giving advice to another parent?
Usually the scary movies, I have to be honest, they're my husband's department more than mine.
That's fair.
So I'm the one that's like, don't you think that'll be a little too scary for them? But no, I usually look for if nothing else, like I look for like good, clean animation, or like a quality art piece. Like some of these knockoffs that I see in Redbox, I'm just like, if they were scary, I mean, even if they're not scary, they would be scary just by how ugly and unattractive they look. And other than that, I know a couple of my friends only subscribe to like certain review people. So like we have the Dobson family, James Dobson. We have those recommendations and some other things that they'll listen for. Keep an ear out.
That's smart. And it's so funny you mentioned those Redbox knockoffs. I'm a big for those of you who know me, I'm a big cinephile, which that means a person who likes films. I got someone on Twitter said, "What's that? Cinephile? That sounds like a weird fetish." I'm like, no, it just means you like cinema. But I like all kinds of cinema, and I love animation, and which I get picked on a lot at the Daily Wire because I'll go to kids movies just because I want to watch the animation. And I'm a big Kung Fu Panda fan. I like all 3 of them. One's my favorite. But I was watching another YouTuber who I highly recommend named Saber Spark, and he was doing a list of Kung Fu Panda knockoffs that you can find in the Redbox. And one of them, it was literally titled "The Panda Who Knew Kung Fu," and I was just like, and he showed a couple of clips from it, and it's just completely laughable. So. So shout out to Saber Spark there. But also, we'll go ahead and get started with our list. So, me being a gentleman, ladies first, what's your first recommendation for a spooky family movie night?
Okay, so, and my kids, I should clarify, my kids are under the age of 6. So.
That's fine.
Well, our version of spooky is probably not your version. So my first pick would be The Wizard of Oz. So you've got the witch, you've got the scarecrow, you've got the kind of you've got the damsel in distress appeal and the cute little dog. So there's enough there that'll keep you guessing. And And it's kind of like a nice family film too, because she just wants her Auntie Evan to go home and everything and stuff. So.
And I actually have a funny Wizard of Oz story. So my parents actually rented it for me and my sister to watch, and I was in kindergarten, I think, maybe had just started kindergarten, so I'm 5 or 6, and they brought it home, and I actually was so scared of the movie that they actually sent me to bed because I wouldn't stop screaming at flying monkeys. I think that's what scared me the most. Now, and so I actually didn't watch it again until I was a teenager because of this, but because I just equated it. But then I watched it as a teenager and I'm like, oh, it's still a good movie. It definitely holds up as a classic.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with all the lore that surrounds that film. But I watched it as a teen. So I'm like, oh, it's not that scary. I don't know why I was freaked. Of course, I was 5, like I was saying. But anyway, yeah. So that's my funny Wizard of Oz tale. My first pick is a Don Bluth classic, which is The Secret of NIMH. It's based on a book called Mrs. Brisby and the Rats of NIMH, I think is what it's called, the book series. But anyway, it's about this family of mice, and they live in this farmer's field. And she finds out she's neighbors with these rats, and they're super intelligent because they were experimented on at like an animal hospital, I think. And so it's incredibly scary. There's like this giant cat named Dragon who is always chasing them around the farm. Their home almost gets destroyed by the farmer when he's running a tractor over the field. And I remember as a kid, it really scared me. And it was when Don Bluth, who also did An American Tale, The Land Before Time. I think it's underappreciated, but Rock-a-Doodle. And then he did a bunch of terrible ones like Pebble and the Penguin and A Troll in Central Park. But anyway, it was when he was at his peak, and so very well made animation, even for the 90s, holds up today. So, but yeah, I highly recommend that film. Great voice casting. It's one of the few G-rated movies, I think, that actually has a swear word in it. So just to warn parents about that, there is one swear word, but it's really quick. Blink and you'll miss it. I didn't even pick up on it till I was a teenager because I used to watch it all the time. It was one of my favorite movies as a kid. So, but anyway, we'll continue on. If you hear a pitter patter, by the way, that's my dog. Whenever I do these interviews, he is always curious, but he also doesn't want to be on camera. The few times I've put him on camera, he jumps away. So if you hear a pitter patter, that's my dog walking on my wood floor. So anyway, Christina, what would be your number 2 pick?
Okay. First, I should preface this with, please don't unsubscribe. But my second pick for kids for like scarier movies is actually the Batman and Robin movie from 1997 with George Clooney. And I will stand by this because it's it's not as dark as the other ones. And it's kind of got this, more of a cartoony look to it and everything. My daughter actually really likes Poison Ivy's hair. And she likes, Nora Freese's necklace and stuff. It's cute, and it's got there's Batgirl, and so it has a good mix of boy and girl role models, and it's kind of like that edges them towards that superhero kind of comic world that seems inevitable for them to find. And the other thing I think that kind of makes it is that there are a lot of villains and heroes, and they masks, and it is kind of again about family because you have Alfred's sickness, you have Nora Freese's kind of condition, you have a lot more than just there's a good guy and a bad guy trying to kill him. There's more depth to it. And I think kids are scared. It's kind of the same thing with Wizard of Oz, where you have the big tornado coming and stuff. You have things in real life that demand real problems, or demand your attention for real problems. And So it's kind of scary, but it's also kind of funny, and there's happy ending at the end. So yeah, and by the time they're old enough to appreciate Batman for who Batman like truly is, they'll look at this and they'll be like, "Oh, no wonder I watched this when I was a kid, because it's it's made for kids, obviously."
Yeah, it's definitely little kids. I would definitely. By the way, the StudioJake does not endorse necessarily the comments made by its guests.
Yes,
I just want to get that out there. People who have read my blog, because I talk about Batman frequently, because I'm a Batman aficionado. I have slammed that film to no end, but I do see it as a good movie for kids, edging them into the comic book world, because it is. I believe it's one of the few Batman films that's only PG. Although I could be wrong. Tim Burton Batman and Batman Returns could be PG, but I think nowadays they would probably be 13.
Well, I kind of laugh at it now too, and I have to say,
I definitely laughed at it.
Well, I mean, I like it because Poison Ivy's like, "Hey, Bruce Wayne, you've got to stop burning coal, and you got to cut off electricity." And he's like, "People come first, Dr. Isley." And I'm like, because it's like, oh my gosh, George Clooney's Batman is a Republican.
Oh, man. Joel Schumacher, not even the Phantom of the Opera could save him from that disaster.
It's like I said, it's aged horribly.
Yes, definitely.
But it's still kind of, like I said, it's funny and clever, and it's in kind of like the 90s way that they have, that 90s charm. So
that is one thing about even like bad movies from the 90s. Like maybe they don't age well, but like my wife and I just watched Blank Check, and it's not exactly a great film, but it's fun to watch because it has that 90s kind of charm, and the computer systems are huge in it, and it's got Miguel Ferreira in it, because now people know him as a voice actor because he has like this really deep, sinister voice. So they always get him for all these DC shows. They always get him to voice like Deathstroke or Vandal Savage. But he's got this really great menacing voice, and it's like in the 90s when he was kind of a little known. So, or I should say, he was a well-known character actor. So it was really cool. I was like, oh my gosh, I see his face. It's him. So yeah, I can kind of see that how that 90s charm would be good. But my number 2, a little bit more recent film. It's the last traditionally animated film from Disney. Hopefully not forever last, but it's The Princess and the Frog. I kind of felt a little bad for The Princess and the Frog because it's actually a really good film. It's a traditionally written, animated, and way of telling a Disney princess story, but it got rightfully upstaged by Tangled, because Tangled is a better film, but it's less scary, and then also by Frozen, so people have kind of forgotten about it. But it's Princess Tiana. She plays this New Orleans woman who accidentally stumbles on this prince who's been turned into a frog by an evil shaman. And it's got ghosts, it's got monsters, it takes place in New Orleans, so it does have some voodoo magic. But to me, it doesn't glorify it. It shows it for what it is, incredibly evil and scary. And so I really enjoyed that film a whole lot. I think it's an underrated Disney film. Like I said, it kind of got upstaged by Tangled and Frozen. Like I said, rightfully so by Tangled. But yeah, just for a good family film, if you want to watch a Disney film that's incredibly scary, but not in like a gratuitously gory way, that is I highly recommend that one. Also, the music in it is really good.
Yeah, my kids actually like that one a lot too. So
right, and so what's your number 3?
Okay, I want to like preface this one with like, I stick to the originals, but it's Star Wars. I actually think this time of the year is really great for science fiction and fantasy, and I don't just say that as a science fiction and fantasy author.
Right.
I think the nice thing about like especially October, November is that it kind of does become a little bit more like nature plays with you with the the early sunset and everything. So you can kind of the more speculative options of like what if and what was that, and those kind of questions come. And I think so. Star Wars is can be pretty scary for kids. When I wasn't very old when they did the re-release in theaters, and that's actually the first movie that I went to go see with my family was Star Wars. It's the 90s, 1993 re-release and everything, so it's not the original, but I remember really getting confused by it. And there were some really scary parts, but it was just nice to kind of be like, oh, what's going to happen? It's more of that kind of tension and why are people arguing?
Right.
They're, why are you arguing when this is happening?
Exactly. It's funny because you don't think of Star Wars as a traditionally, even the original trilogy, you don't think of it as a traditionally scary film but for kids. There's all these monstrous aliens, and especially Empire Strikes Back. Before the giant head coming out of the asteroid. I can actually see how that would be how that could be, especially. Now, I wouldn't say Rogue One included in this because Rogue One is more like just a straight war movie that takes place in the Star Wars universe. Still the best of the modern films. Thank you, Gareth Edwards.
I will agree with that. Mm-hmm.
Right. And my number 3 is, now I noticed it's all mine have been animated and all Christina's have been live action. So I think that's kind of funny. But my number 3 is Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. And this is actually good for this point because it's technically a Christmas film, but it opens after Halloween. It opens the midnight after Halloween. So, but this, I forever didn't know it was a Disney film because Disney released it under their Touchstone banner. I didn't know till I was 20 that Touchstone was Disney. I just,
oh, wow.
I know. I never made that connection.
I'm learning on set. That is Disney. Wow, interesting.
And what's so fun now though is if you go to the Disney stores, they have completely embraced Nightmare Before Christmas. Whereas before you would go, they would only appear at Halloween. Now you can go anywhere to a Disney store, and they have a Jack Skellington collection somewhere in that store, which is great because Jack Skellington, he was actually, now the funny thing about this movie, I didn't see it till I was an adult. I was not allowed to watch this movie when I was a kid, and my parents were not really into the whole stop motion thing,
mm-hmm.
and they thought it was scarier than traditional animation, new technology, and also it was Tim Burton. But whenever he didn't actually direct it, he just wrote it and produced it. I think one of his friends actually directed it. But anyway, whenever I saw it as an adult, I was like, oh my gosh, my parents neglected my childhood. I just loved it. I thought it was fantastic. And to me, it's great. But I'm here. What do you think about Nightmare Before Christmas? Well, what do you think about Nightmare Before Christmas? Do you like it, or is it one of your favorite films?
I've never watched it.
What? Disney Plus.
I've seen the previews. I think it looks charming, but I every time I like, am I going to watch it this year? No.
It's one of the few films I watch once a year. I watch Batman Begins and The Dark Knight once a year. I watch United 97 once a year, and a couple of other patriotic films, but and some of my favorite classics. But Nightmare Before, after college, that became one of my yearly films that I'll rewatch. It's just unforgettable. I love it every time. So, but yeah, I was actually teasing my dad. My dad is actually a Tim Burton fan, so we watched a lot of age-appropriate Tim Burton films growing up, and so I was really surprised that one got past him, but we were just not allowed to watch it. And like I said, I think I was actually in Bible school, and one of my friends was like, "Hey, it's Halloween. We're gonna watch Nightmare Before Christmas." And I thought, "Yeah, I'm 21. Let's do this thing." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, what have I been missing?"
That's okay. That's kind of how I think my husband's reaction to Anastasia was, because he really likes Little Mermaid, and that's basically all the Disney movies he watched as a kid. But it was like, yeah, we're gonna get married, so you have to watch this.
That's so funny. Well, that's actually hilarious because my wife, she didn't watch she had seen The Dark Knight, but she wasn't like invested into comic books like I was. And so she actually rewatched it because it's my favorite. It's tied for my favorite movie. It's The Dark Knight and a Jet Li movie called Fearless. They're tied for my favorite film. And so she actually rewatched it because when we started dating. It's amazing how that how that goes together. Fun fact: The Dark Knight was the third film I went to see by myself as an adult. So that's just for some Jacob Airy trivia. After I die in my life, it goes into Trivial Pursuit. It's Predator. I can't remember the second one for the life of me. Or Predators. Can't remember the second one. And then The Dark Knight. Oh, it was Avatar. Yeah, it was Avatar. Man, that movie was a disappointment. But
yeah, I'm kind of people do a better job with the remake, but I'm not counting on it.
No, not The Last Airbender. It was James Cameron.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the most overhyped film of all kind. I don't care if you don't like I don't care you don't like Avengers Endgame. Fine, Endgame. I tell you, every single Marvel film, even the bad ones, even Thor: Dark World, deserve to be James Cameron's Avatar. Golly, what a crappy film. Anyway,
Okay.
we're kind of getting.
Well, I don't hate Endgame. I just don't think it qualifies as quote unquote film art. So I'm on James Cameron and Martin Scorsese's side with this, and only because I have probably the MA in English.
Well, my problem with that argument is you can make that same argument about all of their films. I mean, especially Coppola's later films. He just did trash after The Godfather Part 2.
I honestly think, and I speak as an artist, speak as somebody who writes books. Some of your books just have to be crap so they sell.
That's true.
I feel bad but I mean, I've read a lot of popular books that are just they're popular, and it's because they're like candy bars. But and I call them candy bar books. I have a system of rating books based on candy bars.
Well, see, this is my thing though. It's some candy bars taste good to other people. Like I have a friend who doesn't like Snicker bars. I don't know how you could not like a Snicker bar, but it doesn't change the fact that it's still a candy bar. Same with me and my fellow Daily Wire writer Paul Ball. We get into this argument because he says is going to I can't remember the restaurant he names, but in buying a burger from this fancy restaurant, is that the same as buying a Big Mac? I said, well, they're still both burgers. It doesn't change the fact that they're both still burgers. And also, too, if one thing Avatar proved, it's that high quality does not equal entertainment. Or even that makes it a good film. If that's, certainly Godfather Part 3 proves this, James Cameron's Avatar. And also, Coppola jumping in, it's just so he can insert his self into the being relevant again, because he hasn't been, like I said, he hasn't been relevant since The Godfather Part 2.
The Rowling thing and tell people that all his characters are secretly gay. So
yeah, I know, right? But
really, so
and also too, I actually see the value in lowbrow entertainment. I know that's like a big no-no for conservatives, but I think that there's value in lowbrow, and that's because I grew up kind of middle class, and and I've also lived where I've only had 50 cents literally in the bank, and so so cheap entertainment. Go to the dollar theater. You're going to see Ninja Assassin, which is a terrible movie, but man, is it fun! You get to see a guy's face get cut off.
Yeah.
So, but anyway.
Prime. So we've been watching. My kids like SpongeBob, and I bought. I will say, for scary stuff that's fun for Halloween that my kids really like right now, I bought them the Jackie Chan Adventures.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic.
I love it.
I remember the Jackie Chan Adventures.
Oh, I was a big Jackie Chan fan growing up. It's
Oh
like,
yeah, me too.
if you had a
Love
movie,
Jackie
I
Chan.
wanted to go see it. And like, if he and Will Smith ever team up and do a decent movie, like even halfway decent movie together, I will be there like every day. Like some people get upset about, or like they repeat themselves for Avengers stuff. It's like I would be there every day. Like,
That's
but
funny.
but yeah, that was we actually we the first season I think is only 13 episodes. We knocked it out in 2 days. So but it's got the kind of creepy demonic magic, but also like there's a wrestler and there's a lot of kung fu and stuff and history, and it was really fun. So
Yeah, another good one is Darkwing Duck, which was a spinoff of DuckTales. Although I'm not sure if it was technically a spinoff, it just had a character from DuckTales. But yeah, some of the episodes were incredibly scary, Halloween themed. It was a spoof of Batman, which I was surprised this tweet didn't get more traction because in the DuckTales reboots, they have an episode called The Duck Knight Returns. And it's about Darkwing Duck. And in this universe, Darkwing Duck is a fictional character. He's not real.
mm-hmm.
And it's all about they're doing a dark reboot of Darkwing Duck. And I tweeted the DuckTales reboot episode, The Duck Knight Returns, has more insight into cinema than Coppola and Scorsese combined. And I intentionally sent that tweet to cause trouble. It was totally ignored. I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, this is great. I'll get this discussion going, and I'll own all the film bros on Twitter, and not even a single comment.
Climb off the top of the horses and reign as king. Yeah.
That's so funny. But anyway, do you want to throw in any other just scary movies just for some honorable mentions before we conclude?
Honorable mentions for scary movies. I feel bad for admitting it. We're not a big scary fan. It's my fault. I I'm the person that's like, The Dark Knight was actually a terrible movie.
What?
I have made arguments before about this, and I never want to rewatch it. So.
Oh man, we have to do a whole nother episode about that.
I was going to say you might want to save that for another full episode.
I'm gonna have like 5 people on.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even Andrew Clavin admits The Dark Knight is a good movie. He even wrote a review about it in LA Times. So yeah, and he hates comic book films. So
yeah, I tend to hate them for their there's a level of realism and fantasy. He tends to hate them for the so in science, the difference between science fiction and fantasy, okay, which I would argue is probably his main problem with that, is he prefers things to be logical with their conception. So he is more of a sci-fi superhero fan. With the Avengers, you get more of that. It's on that borderline of fantasy element, and that's the problem. So yeah, well, it's we have more to play, and he doesn't like that.
I guess, but well, this kind of went out. We went way off the beaten trail on this, but all right. Well, yeah, that's fine. We do it all the time.
Yeah,
that happens a lot on this podcast. At least
talking.
One thing about this podcast is we at least talk about the main point before we go off on rabbit trails. So that's always fun. So, Christina, where can people find you? And I know you also have another book coming out besides the one recently released. So tell everyone about that.
I actually have 2 this month coming out.
There you go.
God willing. So the first is Northern Lights, Southern Stars. It's a Snow White retelling of sorts with it's not really high action, it's just high tension. I just love it. I'm indulging all my girly instincts with this one. Sorry.
That's all right.
And then the second one I have coming out is at the end of the month. It's actually the first part of my serial. I'm going to try to do a superhero serial. And so it's like this one sitting setting. It's called Fat Girl. And it's about this teenage girl who wants to be a model who accidentally eats radioactive donuts and becomes this very overweight accidental superhero. So it's actually very funny and very awful. Over the years, I've gotten better about balancing out my satirical takes with sympathy. So I've had a lot of good feedback on it so far. And hey, an excuse to go out to buy donuts. So
nice, can't go wrong. And of course, you can find. Oh, where can people find you? Like Twitter, Facebook.
Yeah, people can find me on Facebook and Instagram at writer CS Johnson. So, and then Twitter is C_S_Johnson 13.
And of course, you can find me on Twitter. It's at Real Jacob Airy. Instagram is Real Jacob Airy. Facebook is author Jacob Airy. And of course, you can find my blog where I talk about more topics like this, including anime, television, film, books, all kinds of stuff. That's jacobairy.blog, JACOBAIREY.BLOG. And thanks everyone so much for watching. We'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.